Welcome to our webinar. This is a Brexit update for you. I am Neil Driver, one of the partners at Davis Grant, and I'm presenting the Brexit presentation for you today. So, as we stand now, the UK is just weeks away from the end of the Brexit transition period on 31st of December 2020. And many businesses are really still quite unprepared. After this date, the UK will no longer be part of the arrangements that have made trade and travel to the continent so easy. And at the time of this presentation, the UK is still to sign a new trade deal with the EU, and there remains a significant degree of uncertainty, which is making it harder for businesses to plan for the future. And this has been made all the harder by events of the pandemic, which continue to affect our everyday lives and the ability of many businesses to trade. So it's clear that many businesses still aren't fully prepared for what lies ahead, but there are certain steps that all owners can take now to build resilience and ensure their business is ready. During this presentation, we hope to go over these steps and look at some of the implications that Brexit may have on your business, staff, suppliers and customers. We hope to cover a lot of ground during this webinar. Our team at Davis Grant are also standing by to answer any questions you may have in the weeks and months ahead. So really, what happens next? Businesses remain uncertain of exactly how trade will continue once the transition period ends on 31st December 2020. The UK government has been said to be focusing on a Canada-style deal, but as negotiations become wrapped up in various issues, Prime Minister Boris Johnson wanted the UK to prepare for an Australian-style deal. If you aren't an expert in international trade agreements, it's not really clear what the difference between the two deals means in reality, especially when it comes to the introduction of potentially costly new tariffs. So the Canadian-style deal, Canada has had a trade arrangement with the EU since 2017, known as the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, which gives Canada almost completely tariff-free trade in goods. That deal also protects the EU's geographical indications, where products with specific geographical origin are protected, such as camembert cheese or champagne. And this prohibits Canada from importing any goods using the same names from another country. Under this CETA, Canada and the EU also cooperate on standards, ensuring that a product is cleared under EU safety and security rules, that it doesn't have to undergo further checks if that product is imported into Canada. So the main selling point of this deal is that there are increased quotas on exports, which allows a certain amount of product to be exported before the tariffs are applied. But it doesn't eliminate charges altogether. An example under the CETA is the amount of tariff-free cheese that the EU can import into Canada, and that increased from 18,500 tonnes to 31,972 tonnes in the year. But whilst 98% of products are tariff-free, import taxes do remain on some goods, such as meat, eggs and poultry. So although these arrangements reduce the regulatory trade barriers, Canada still faces more red tape and costs than EU countries when trading with each other. So that's the Canadian-style deal. An Australian-style deal is that despite the talk of an Australian-style deal, the reality is that the EU doesn't have a free trade agreement with Australia, although it's currently negotiating one. Should the UK trade with the EU use the current Australian terms, businesses wouldn't have any favourable access to the EU that they currently enjoy. Instead, they would face the EU's standard World Trade Organization or WTO tariffs when exporting to the continent, and EU businesses would face the UK's standard WTO tariffs when exporting into the UK. For example, this could mean that cars imported into the UK from the EU could be 10% more expensive, while price of exported milk, cheese and some meat would increase by maybe up to 30%. So more importantly, the UK's key services market would lose any preferential access to EU markets under an Australia-style deal. So in some ways, certain commentators have pointed out that an Australian-style deal is very similar to a no-deal scenario. So the time to act is now. There is very, very little time left to implement what you need to do. We'll start by looking in more detail about trade arrangements. So from 1st of January 2021, the process for importing and exporting goods will change. Already there's speculation of long waits at borders and complications regarding the different types of licenses and customs declarations businesses will need. Despite pledges to reduce red tape and bureaucracy, as things currently stand, businesses that import and export will need to undertake new steps under the new arrangements. So businesses must begin to prepare for these steps now so they can continue to trade with minimal disruption. In its latest guidance, the government laid out principles for the core model, which relates to all goods and services, which relates to all goods imported and exported, regardless of how you transport them and which means of transport are used to move the goods. The guidance covers the core process of customs declarations, customs duty, import VAT, and safety and security declarations. Under each of these headings, it sets out the actions that businesses should take now, as they'll be required to follow these rules and regulations regardless of the outcome of the ongoing trade negotiations. So these are really set in stone. To help businesses adapt, HMRC will introduce new border controls in the core model in 3 stages up to and until 31st of July 2021. To help prepare for these changes, businesses should do the following. You should apply for an EORI number, prepare to pay or account for VAT on imported goods, consider your commercial arrangements in terms of trade, determine the customs value of your goods, and consider how customs declarations to HMRC systems will be made, and possibly the use of a customs intermediary. Businesses in certain industries may also need to check what export licenses or certificates they require, the marking of labels, labelling, marketing standards for food, plant seeds and manufactured goods, the rules for exporting or importing alcohol, tobacco and certain oils. But to help with this, the government has produced a step-by-step checklist for importers and exporters, which you can find on the gov.uk website. Now, if you move goods into Northern Ireland or via it into the EU, then you need to sign up for the government's free trader support service. This is a free-to-use service available to businesses of any size moving goods into Northern Ireland. And it provides guidance, training, and a digital declaration support service from customs experts. Now, VAT. VAT is complex at the best of times, but the Brexit transition latest guidance makes the process of accounting for VAT on imports and services to and from the EU even more difficult. Import VAT. So goods that move into the UK from the EU after 1st of January 2021 will be considered imports, meaning import VAT and customs duties will be payable and customs declarations will need to be made. Import VAT will no longer be payable when goods enter into the UK from 1st January 2021, but businesses will instead account for VAT on all goods importing using a postponed accounting system. This means that import VAT will be accounted for and paid via your usual VAT return, which will lead to an improved cash flow position for many businesses as you're not paying VAT at the border. This applies to all goods imported by VAT registered importers to the UK, including those goods from the EU. In most cases, import VAT should still be recoverable by businesses, but of course duty costs are not recoverable. So, accounting for import VAT on your VAT return, you'll have to account for import VAT via your VAT return under the postponed accounting system if the goods you import are for use in your business. The businesses must include its EORI number, which starts with a GB on its customs declaration, which is vital that you get one immediately if you don't have one already, and your VAT registration number is needed for that. A business can then account for import VAT on its VAT return when you submit the declaration that releases the goods into free circulation from one of the following customs procedures. So it's either customs warehousing, inward processing, temporary admission of goods, end of use, outward processing, or duty suspension. So although it's complex, a business can only account for import VAT on their VAT return once they release the excise goods for use in the UK, and that's also known as released for home consumption. If the business imports goods that are not controlled into Great Britain from the EU between 1st of January and 30th of June 2021, they must also account for import VAT on their VAT return, even if they delay the customs declaration or use a simplified declaration to make a declaration in their records. As you can tell, this is complex and you really do need to study what's going on in order to get your head around it in time and to make sure you're following the right processes. What about deferring duty? Well, new rules for duty deferment will apply in Great Britain from 1st of January 2021. These will allow businesses that import goods regularly to apply for duty deferment, for a duty deferment account to delay paying most customs charges, including customs duty, excise duty, and import VAT. Through this account, a business can make a single payment each month via direct debit instead of paying for each individual consignment separately. This scheme is open to importers or customs agents and freight handlers that work for importers or have an approved deferment guarantee or waiver in place. So to get a duty deferment arrangement, you do have to have a guarantee or waiver in place. Regardless of the method that you account for VAT on imported goods, checks to ensure that the data on the customs declarations is accurate will continue to be really important for VAT purposes for all imports, as that is going to be the primary means to ensure that the correct import VAT is accounted for and paid. Now, there's a few other smaller VAT considerations. Consignments of value below £135 is one of them. Imported goods on a consignment not exceeding £135, excluding some specific excise goods and gifts will not be subject to import VAT at the border. So this low value consignment relief that exists now will be withdrawn, and VAT will be charged on the goods as if they were supplied in the UK, and you account for them on your UK VAT return. But businesses selling goods to be imported into the UK with a value not exceeding 135 will still be required to charge and collect any VAT due at the time of sale. For UK VAT registered businesses, importing goods in a consignment not exceeding £135 in value that has not been charged for VAT at the time you bought it, you can account for that VAT on your VAT return under the usual reverse charge method. Another thing to look at is the place of supply. Businesses must still determine the country where a supply takes place for VAT purposes, so they know where the VAT due is payable. At the moment, the place of supply rules are applied almost identically across the EU member states, and it's expected that the UK will retain similar rights after the transition period ends to prevent significant disruption. However, the consequence of this is that businesses may continue to create VAT liabilities in other EU member states, and this means that businesses in the UK will require multiple EU VAT registrations with each member state that they trade within. Further clarity on this is still expected in future government guidance and might be affected by the outcome of the ongoing trade negotiations. What about reclaiming VAT in the EU? Currently, UK firms incurring VAT in EU countries can claim VAT back, subject to national rules, via your HMRC dedicated refund portal. Now, that arrangement will remain in place until 31st of March 2021, after which time there is currently no provision in place where a claim for VAT incurred in 2020 you can claim that back under the terms of the withdrawal agreement. There's also going to be an impact on services. Post-Brexit, there should be, however, a minimal impact on the supply of services. Business-to-business services are generally treated as though they are supplied where the customer belongs, and that customer must account for the local VAT. This will mean that for UK service suppliers, they'll continue to not charge UK VAT. For business to consumer supplies, UK VAT generally applies, and this is likely to remain unchanged. When receiving services, it is expected that UK businesses will still have to apply a reverse charge to the receipt of services from non-UK suppliers. This will ensure that there's no competitive advantage from sourcing services via non-UK suppliers. Again, a lot of complexity to deal with. What about retaining and recruiting talent? At the end of the transition period, that also signifies the end of free movement agreement between the EU and the UK. And this may mean the steps need to be taken to think about retaining existing talent or recruiting new talent where the employee is a UK citizen. So employers should check whether existing employees from the UK member states need to apply to the EU settlement scheme. A person is eligible for settled status if they started living in the UK before 31st of December 2020 and they have lived here for a continuous 5-year period. 5 years continuous residence mean that for 5 years in a row, they've been in the UK, the Channel Islands or the Isle of Man for at least 6 months in any 12-month period. if they don't have 5 years continuous residence when they apply, they'll usually get pre-settled status. To get this, they must have started living in the UK by 31st December 2020, and they can stay in the UK for a further 5 years. They can then apply to change this to settled status once they have 5 years continuous residence. Some EU citizens may be able to stay in the UK without applying, for example, Irish citizens or those with indefinite leave to remain. The deadline for applying for settled status is 30th of June 2021, so it's 6 months after the termination of the transition period. So it's important that this process is completed before then. Businesses wishing to retain talented EU citizens may wish to help employees prepare for those necessary applications. After the transition period, you can still recruit EU citizens, but you'll need to apply for permission and the correct visas. In order to recruit workers from outside the UK in the skilled worker category, you will need to demonstrate that they speak English at the required level, they have a job offer from a Home Office licensed sponsor, that job offer is required at the required skill level of RQF3 or above, which is equivalent to A levels, and that they're going to be paid at least £25,600 or the going rate for the job offer, whichever is higher. So that's a minimum entry level. If the job pays less than £25,600, but no less than £20,480, then the applicant can still apply for permission by trading points on specific characteristics against their salary. For example, if the worker has a qualification in a relevant job and has an offer in a shortage application, there are different salary rules for workers in health or education jobs and new entrants who are starting their careers. This new system will not apply to EEA or Swiss citizens already employed in the UK, as they can use the EU settlement scheme. To become a Home Office licensed sponsor, you must apply online and do the following. You've got to check that your business is eligible. You need to choose the type of license you wish to apply for, which will depend upon what type of work you want to sponsor. You need to decide who will manage the sponsorship within the business and pay a fee. You will be given a license rating and you'll be able to issue certificates of sponsorship if you have jobs that are suitable for sponsorship. And that will remain valid for 4 years, as long as you check that your foreign workers have necessary skills or qualifications or professional accreditations to do their job, and you've got to keep copies of the documents showing that you only assign certificates of sponsorship to workers where the job is suitable for sponsorship, and that you tell UK Visas and Immigration if your sponsored workers are not complying with the conditions of their visa. These rules are not straightforward, and we therefore advise that you seek professional advice around that. Now, there's impact on overseas business travel. From 1st January, there'll be new rules of travelling to the EU, Switzerland, Norway, Ireland, or Liechtenstein. Should you or any representatives of your business need to travel to the EU in future, you've got to consider the following. You've got to check your passport, get travel insurance that covers your healthcare, check that you've got any correct driving documents. You need to be telling HMRC that you'll be working in the EU. You've got to check whether you need to pay social security contributions in the country that you're working in. You've got to check whether you need indemnity insurance for any employees working in the EU, check whether you've got the right documentation to take goods into the EU. So it's important that you conduct a review of your entire operation and organisation, and you've got to assess the impact on employee travel post-Brexit and how it might impact your ability to operate and grow your business moving forward. So whilst there's an awful lot of issues surrounding what I've been talking about, travel, employees, VAT, importing, and matters in general, it's easy to get lost in the doom and gloom that's being reported around Brexit at the moment. But new freedoms gained from the UK's departure from the EU could also open new opportunities and markets. Already, the UK has signed a comprehensive free trade deal with Japan and is in discussions to create a large agreement with Canada, Australia, New Zealand, which is the so-called Cairns UK deal. Discussions are also ongoing with the US for a trade deal, but the recent election of Joe Biden has raised questions about the speed at which those negotiations can be completed. More generally, though, the departure from the EU should allow the UK to establish new trade deals with a whole wide range of markets. But with the EU remaining the country's largest trade partner, achieving a deal with the EU bloc, obviously remains a key goal. So a final checklist for you is that as the UK is yet to secure a deal, you really need to consider the following. The implications for VAT for your business, how introduction of new tariffs could affect you. Make sure you are fully conversant with the new requirements for importing or exporting goods and the new border controls that are in place. If you've got EU citizens working, either in the UK from the EU, or you've got employees working in the EU, then you need to look at the impact of that on your workforce to make sure you've got the correct paperwork and visas in place. Look at the impact of all this on your supply chains, both inward and outward, and just run through some scenarios of when you put all this together, how it's going to impact your business. On top of the COVID issues, you're going to now potentially have this to deal with. So run through different scenarios, good and bad, of how that can affect your business and your numbers and what you really want to be achieving. So you should take time to review each of these points and consider the direct and indirect impacts on your business. If you might have a supplier that's got a problem, that's going to impact you, and so on, so that you can put the plans in place to mitigate any issues. We are here to help. UK businesses face an uncertain period full of variables that could affect your income and ability to trade. So we are already supporting a number of businesses with their preparations for Brexit, and are standing by to support you if you have any queries or require any form of support. Our contact details are there on the screen. If you would like to know more about the impact Brexit may have or how we can help, please phone up and arrange a consultation with one of our team and find out how we can assist you. We also have a Brexit section on our website with supporting checklist and plans following from this presentation. So please make sure that you visit there for more details. And there we are, that's the end of the presentation. There is a lot there. I appreciate some of it is quite dry, or a lot of it is very dry. There's a lot of technical details, and it's important that you do give yourself enough time to properly prepare. If in doubt, please do contact us. Thank you very much. Wishing you all the best.